Warning! Do not watch on an empty stomach and make sure your fridge is well stocked. These modern cooking manhwa follow real-world chefs chasing dreams and running high-stakes kitchens. If you enjoy restaurant dramas, gourmet food stories, and the grit behind the glamour, you're home. Let's dig in. In the modern world, there are two types of hotels: 5-star hotels and non-5-star hotels. All other types fall under the third class. Ranked among the top 100 hotels in the country is the Julia Hotel. Known for its excellent service and top-tier chefs who prepare gourmet dishes for its guests. Our protagonist, Kang Sung-hoon, is an apprentice chef working in the hotel kitchen. His daily tasks include menial chores and chopping vegetables in preparation for cooking. Although he has been working there for 4 years, he is still the youngest and most junior chef. The senior chefs, eager to avoid the less desirable tasks, often delegate the dirty work to him, especially jobs like cleaning. One day, as he was busy working, another senior chef ordered him to clean the grease trap, a tank used to collect waste oil after a day of cooking. While struggling to lift the heavy oil container, Sung-hoon heard a shout up ahead that caught his attention. It was the head chef, Do Jin-sok, scolding another chef for making a mistake while cooking. Do Jin-sok, the head chef of 17 chefs in the kitchen, had worked at the hotel for years. Despite his gruff demeanor, Sung-hoon knew that the head chef's words were always right. He aspired to be as skilled as him one day. While lost in thought, Sung-hoon was interrupted by the cleaning lady. "Why did you bring this here? I just emptied it all." She sounded frustrated. He sheepishly explained that a senior had asked him to do it. The cleaning lady sighed sympathetically, wondering when they would stop treating him as the youngest. Sung-hoon awkwardly scratched his head and replied, "I'm still an assistant chef. Last year, I was washing dishes, so this is an improvement." She encouraged him, urging him to strive for a higher position and do it faster. She took the cleaning task from him and told him to go back to his work. Sung-hoon returned to prepare for the chef's seminar. His senior didn't want to attend, so Sung-hoon was sent to mark the attendance. Absently checking his phone, he realized it was almost time. He hurried to make it on time. Luckily, he arrived just as the seminar was starting but, unfortunately, found there were no empty seats. He decided to mark the attendance first. While signing his name, someone called out, "Kang Sung-hoon, is that you?" It was Go Jung-tae, a friend and comrade from his past. Jung-tae had won first place in the public service category of a military cooking competition. The two had spent 8 weeks together during the competition and quickly became close friends. Sung-hoon was surprised to see Jung-tae had also become a chef. Jung-tae shared that he was now working as an assistant chef at the Hilton Hotel. Sung-hoon was happy for his friend's success in the culinary world. When asked about his own work, Sung-hoon felt a bit embarrassed to say he was working at the small Julia Hotel. Jung-tae was surprised, not knowing the hotel's name, and continuously asked, "Why don't you quit? What could you possibly learn there? What's your position, apprentice or assistant chef?" Sung-hoon shyly replied, "Actually, I'm still an intern." Jung-tae exclaimed in surprise, "Why didn't you call me?" He then handed Sung-hoon his business card. "Contact me anytime. I know many seniors who could help you. If I introduce you to them, it'll benefit you. Let's go inside for now," he added. Seeing Sung-hoon hesitate, Jung-tae quickly realized that he had only come to mark attendance. Indeed, the senior chefs at his hotel were lazy and had pushed him into attending just to fill the spot. Jung-tae insisted, pulling him in since there were 2 empty seats left for his absent head chef. The MC announced that the seminar would start in 5 minutes. Feeling a bit nervous, Sung-hoon decided to visit the restroom. While washing his hands, a man appeared behind him. Sung-hoon glanced over and immediately recognized the unfriendly face, Young Il-woo. From the expression on his face, it was clear they shared an unpleasant history. Sung-hoon recalled 8 years ago when he had been an eager apprentice at the Myeongdong Hotel. Back then, he had been enthusiastic about his work, but his senior, Young Il-woo, had introduced him to the kitchen, sparking resentment from the other chefs. The older chefs, resentful of the new arrivals, often bullied them. Young-il-woo, in particular, had believed that Sung-hoon had gotten the job through connections and made it his mission to put him in his place. Though another senior chef initially wanted to avoid conflict, the malicious Young-il-woo persisted. One day, he pointed to a huge pile of onions and ordered Sung-hoon to chop them all by breakfast the next day. Without giving him a chance to explain, when Sung-hoon couldn't finish the task on his own, Young-il-woo returned the next day and beat him mercilessly for not completing it. Clutching his bruised stomach, Sung-hoon tried to argue. "I wasn't supposed to do it alone. At least 4 people are needed for this task." But Young-il-woo wouldn't listen, grabbing him by the collar and continuing to beat him, while others stood by and watched in amusement. The following months were grueling. Every small mistake, even if Sung-hoon had done his best, was met with harsh scolding. The insults grew worse, and after 3 months of relentless bullying, Sung-hoon's passion for cooking faded. He decided to leave the Myeongdong Hotel and swore never to pursue the path of a chef again, until his father's death. Now, seeing Young-il-woo again made Sung-hoon visibly uncomfortable. Young-il-woo looked at him with disdain, hurling insults. His words only infuriated Sung-hoon further. A confrontation seemed inevitable, until Jung Tae appeared. Jung Tae, a good friend, had been searching for Sung-hoon when he didn't return. His arrival forced Young-il-woo to reluctantly walk away. The two friends calmed down and returned to the seminar together. The main topic of the seminar was the Michelin Guide's release in Korea. This foreign guide had a significant impact on Korean cuisine, and the Culinary Association announced that they would rank hotels based on their Korean dishes. The news surprised everyone and sparked lively discussion. This policy would have a major effect on hotel rankings, making the quality of the kitchen essential to a hotel's reputation. To ensure fairness, the association planned to promote the rankings on television. The results would be broadcast live on KBC. Everyone understood that the ranking broadcast was essentially an announcement of a cooking competition. As the seminar came to an end, there was a sense of pressure among the chefs. Only the top 20 ranked hotels would be featured, while those ranked lower would be left out. The participating chefs had to have less than 10 years of experience to qualify. With 8 years of experience, Jung Tae still had a chance to participate, but Sung-hoon, as just an assistant chef, felt he wouldn't be eligible. Jung Tae, regretting not having another chance to cook alongside his friend, bid Sung-hoon farewell, and the two went their separate ways to return to their respective hotels. Upon reporting back, Kang Sung-hoon called to brief his superior about the seminar details, but had to wait for a while before someone picked up the phone. The voice on the other end sounded irritated, explaining that they were overwhelmed due to a sudden influx of tourists from China. The kitchen was running low on ingredients, and they urgently needed Sung-hoon to go to the supplier for a restock. Sung-hoon responded, "Just me? Why not have them deliver it?" The person on the other end, clearly frustrated, snapped, "Ingredients are your responsibility." Given his lowest rank in the kitchen, Sung-hoon knew he couldn't argue back. He sighed and agreed, "All right, I'll be back soon." Back in the kitchen, when the head chef asked about Sung-hoon, the assistant chef explained that he was on his way back and could pick up the ingredients on his way. The head chef was aware of the Culinary Association's televised event and seemed to have high expectations for Sung-hoon. Meanwhile, everyone in the kitchen was busy, working hard to serve the tourists. The head chef kept a close watch on the team, constantly reminding them to work faster. The section leader, Do Jongmin, expressed frustration, blaming Sung-hoon for the current chaos, saying that if he had returned earlier, they wouldn't be struggling so much. Curious, Jongmin asked the head chef why he had sent Sung-hoon to get the ingredients when he usually handled it himself. The head chef replied seriously, "Jongmin, don't you understand why?" Jongmin hesitated. I don't know." With a sigh, the head chef replied, "You're still very green." He then turned and walked away. Standing before the cutting board, the head chef placed 3 red tilapias on it. Deep in thought, the section leader, Oh Hyungmin, noticed him standing still and called out, "Head chef, what are you looking at so intently?" The head chef called him over and asked, "Do you think these fish are wild or farmed? Take a closer look." Kyungmin replied. Just by looking, I'd say they are wild. Head chef, he continued, they have a fresh pink color on their scales with diamond-shaped green spots. Being over 50 centimeters and still maintaining their color, they must be wild. The head chef countered. That's just a general assumption. An expert would classify them differently. He began pointing out the finer details. Look closely, it should have 2 separate nostrils. Not like this. He smiled lightly, pleased, but Kang Sung-hoon sorted them all correctly. That kid, this time, we got a big catch. His meaning was clear. He had discovered Sung-hoon's hidden talent. At Garrick Market, Sung-hoon followed his senior's instructions and was picking up more ingredients. He arrived at an apple store and greeted the owner, revealing that they were well acquainted. The owner introduced that they had Cheongju and Sungju apples available that day. Sung-hoon eagerly picked up an apple, and just by holding it, he could immediately assess its quality. He said to the owner, I think this apple has low sugar content. The owner, surprised, responded, this is a Cheongju apple, the best apple in Korea. Sung-hoon explained, when you hold the apple, you can feel that it has become soggy. If you don't believe me, try biting into it. The owner, who had been in the business for many years, was skeptical but peeled the apple Sung-hoon handed her and took a bite. To her surprise, it tasted exactly as Sung-hoon had described. Lacking flavor. She thanked him. Goodness, I need to return these right away. If it weren't for you, I'd have been in big trouble. How did you know just by touching it? Sung-hoon, unsure how to explain, awkwardly responded, it's just a method I know. He then proceeded to check the Sungju apples, which were fine, and asked the owner to send 3 boxes to the hotel. Next, Sung-hoon visited a fish shop, where the owner greeted him warmly. It seemed he was a regular customer at the market. The ingredient Sung-hoon needed was blue crabs. Although the owner didn't have any in stock, he made a call and arranged for Sung-hoon to get some from a nearby shop. The blue crabs were fresh and newly caught. Looking very appealing, Sung-hoon picked up one to inspect. And upon touching it, he could sense the bustling scene of the early morning catch. Pleased, he said, these crabs are really fresh. The owner was happy to hear this compliment and arranged for the crabs to be delivered to the hotel. With the ingredients purchased, Sung-hoon headed back. At that moment, he received a message and took out his phone to check it, which dampened his spirits. The message was from the hospital, informing him of an outstanding bill amounting to over 23 million won. Sung-hoon sighed in frustration. It was a significant debt. Returning to Julia Hotel, Sung-hoon quickly changed and joined his seniors in the kitchen. Everyone was busy cooking to serve the guests. As soon as he stepped into the kitchen, he was immediately bombarded with tasks. Someone needed more sausages. Another needed the boiled ducks. And even the task of changing the gas cylinder fell to him. Sung-hoon was overwhelmed with support work, barely having time to breathe. The calls for assistance from his seniors kept coming. Jongmin, seeing Sung-hoon being so busy, smirked with satisfaction. While he was distracted by his work, he was reminded to stay focused. Finally, the hectic period ended, and everyone sighed with relief. They had to exert all their effort to serve the large group of guests. After the service, they all worked together to clean up the kitchen, seeing the senior chefs helping with the cleaning. Unlike his own experience when he was the youngest and had to handle all the cleaning and dishwashing, Jongmin felt bitter. He was envious and resentful, thinking, what does he have that I don't? As Jongmin was daydreaming, a senior's voice snapped him back to his task. After washing the dishes, he was responsible for putting them in their designated places. Jongmin, still irritated, called him over with the intent to reprimand him. He loudly scolded, I only asked you to mark attendance for me, right? Why did you stay there the whole time and come back late? If you hadn't come back late, we wouldn't have been overwhelmed like this. Sung-hoon didn't argue, he just bowed his head and apologized. Emboldened, Jongmin continued to raise his voice, berating him more and more. Without noticing the head chef standing behind him, Sung-hoon gently reminded Jongmin to lower his voice, which made Jongmin, thinking Sung-hoon was being defiant, even more furious. His face flushed with anger, and he raised his hand with the intent to strike Sung-hoon. But the head chef caught his hand mid-air. The head chef's presence made Jongmin turn pale with fear. Shouted angrily, "What do you think you're doing? Did I teach you to behave like this? Why were you about to slap him?" Jongmin, worried, bowed and made excuses, claiming he was only trying to teach Sung-hoon because he was slow and distracted during work. The head chef, looking stern, said nothing, allowing the situation to diffuse. Sung-hoon quickly apologized to the head chef. "If I had worked faster, the seniors wouldn't have been so busy, and even the cleanup would have finished sooner. It's my fault." Head chef, moved by Sung-hoon's sincerity. The head chef's expression softened, and Jongmin felt relieved. The head chef sighed. "All right, I understand." But he didn't let Jongmin off the hook, turning to him with a warning. "Even if he is a junior, I forbid you from raising your hand against him in this kitchen. Understood? Such behavior is unacceptable for someone who calls themselves a section leader." This ends here. Also, we will have a cooking test at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Sung-hoon, you don't need to go to the market. Just come here and start working in the morning. The head chef settled the matter smoothly. As Sung-hoon was changing to go home, he received a message from a girl named Jae-hee, asking to meet at a cafe because she had something important to discuss. Feeling uneasy, he was about to leave when Jongmin appeared in front of him again. Still upset about the earlier incident, Jongmin jealously accused, "Who do you think you are that the head chef cares so much about you? Why do I have to attend the test tomorrow with the head chef? What's the reason? He even let you off the market duty." Kang Sung-hoon, not entirely sure of the reason himself, simply relayed what he knew. After returning from the seminar, the hotel's kitchen would participate in the Best Chef program, with only chefs under 10 years of experience allowed to join. Sung-hoon mentioned that perhaps the head chef would choose Jongmin for the competition. Hearing this, Jongmin felt somewhat pleased but still puzzled. Then why did he ask you to go there? Sung-hoon, unsure, suggested that perhaps the head chef wanted him to temporarily take on Jongmin's role. Satisfied with this explanation, the irritable chef finally let Sung-hoon go. Like in a Korean drama, the main character often runs to make it to a date on time. If he ever quits being a chef, Sung-hoon should consider joining a marathon club. Standing in front of the cafe, Sung-hoon felt a bit nervous, sighed, straightened his clothes, and walked inside. He scanned the room for his date. At a table in the distance, a beautiful girl sat alone waiting. She looked up and coldly said, "You're finally here? You're late." Their eyes locked with a spark of tension. They sat together for a while, the ice in their drinks melting. Without exchanging a word, Kang Sung-hoon broke the silence first. "So, what did you want to talk about?" The girl didn't say anything. She just handed her phone to Sung-hoon and told him to look at its content. Sung-hoon's demeanor suddenly became tense as he looked at the phone. The wallpaper showed a romantic scene of her with another man. Sung-hoon closed his eyes in resignation. "I see. Is this all you wanted to tell me?" She slowly spoke. "That man is also a chef like you. But he is completely different. He has a higher status. Maybe a bit older, but he is already a head chef. Moreover, he works at a hotel ranked in the top 20. And you? You're still an apprentice at a hotel barely in the top 100. I don't want to waste my youth and life on someone like that." It turned out they were lovers. But she decided to leave him for a better prospect, believing Kang Sung-hoon's future wasn't bright. Hearing her blunt words, Sung-hoon couldn't argue and just sat there in silence. Jae-hee continued, "I've said everything I needed to. Don't you have anything to say?" Sung-hoon sighed and replied, "No." Jae-hee didn't say anything more. Standing up to leave, before she walked away, she added, "Oh, and you should thank me. Thank me for opening your eyes to reality while you're still so naive." Not only did Sung-hoon get cheated on before the breakup, but he also had to thank her for it. How infuriating. His fate as the protagonist seemed particularly unlucky. Throughout the conversation, Kang Sung-hoon remained silent, knowing he had no success to speak of, unable to blame his girlfriend. Life is practical and harsh like that, without a career or money. This harsh reality is inevitable. Frustrated, Sung-hoon turned to alcohol and slept until the next morning. He woke up with a start, grabbing his phone and seeing it was already 6:30, causing him to panic. He hastily dressed, ready to go to the market, then remembered he didn't need to go today. Relieved, Kang Sung-hoon stood in the bright morning light, promising himself to work even harder. A new day began at Julia Hotel. Though he didn't need to go to the market, Sung-hoon still arrived early, busily arranging the tools, while he was engrossed in his work. He didn't notice the head chef had been observing him from behind. Sung-hoon turned and saw the head chef, quickly bowing in greeting. At that moment, the senior chefs returned with the ingredients, everyone in high spirits, showing their fondness for Sung-hoon. Unlike Jongmin, suddenly, the kitchen door was slammed open. Jongmin hurried in, and the sous chef, Kim Sung-soo, angrily shouted, "Jongmin, you're late again?" Everyone whispered about his work attitude. Today was an important day. And he still arrived late. If the head chef finds out, you're done, they murmured. Jongmin arrogantly retorted, "Why are you shouting? I arrived right at 8 o'clock. Didn't I?" The sous chef was visibly irritated but held back because the head chef was present. The head chef's voice made Jongmin quickly line up. He announced the selection program for the top 20 hotel kitchens through the Best Chef competition, with the condition that participating chefs must have less than 10 years of experience. This was an opportunity to enhance the hotel's reputation. Hearing the announcement, Jongmin stood to the side, smirking, confident that he would be chosen. Since everyone else had over 10 years of experience, only he and Kang Sung-hoon qualified to participate, making Jongmin very confident that the spot would be his. He boasted in front of everyone, not noticing the head chef's reaction. The head chef let him finish before calmly speaking. "Jongmin, I think you are mistaken. Did I ever say you would be the representative?" His words stunned Jongmin. "If not me, then who?" The head chef didn't respond directly but turned to Kang Sung-hoon and said, "Kang Sung-hoon, do you remember what I said about the competition yesterday? You and Jo Jongmin will have a cooking contest. The winner will represent our hotel." To be fair and ensure Jongmin would accept the outcome, and to give Sung-hoon a chance to showcase his talent, the head chef arranged a competition between them. Naturally, Jongmin didn't like this. He protested, "Isn't it obvious that I should be chosen for the competition? Kang Sung-hoon is just a rookie. He probably hasn't even chopped anything before. He's not worthy of being my opponent." The head chef explained seriously, "Sung-hoon is also eligible. Therefore, I must be fair to both of you. Just take the test, and then we'll decide. If you think it's unfair, feel free to tell me." He announced the test: to prepare breakfast for the Chinese guests who arrived at the hotel last night. Each contestant would choose their own menu, and the one whose dishes sold the most would become the hotel's representative. Jongmin smirked arrogantly, confident he would win this competition. The head chef asked if either had any questions, when there were none. The competition began. Kang Sung-hoon closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and loudly expressed his determination. The head chef looked pleased. Before the competition started, he reminded both of them. Yesterday's menu for the guests included chicken, duck, and beer, so prepare some light breakfast menus for them. The competition began. While Kang Sung-hoon meticulously worked on his dishes, Jongmin watched with disdain. "You're lucky to get this chance. But I'm definitely winning this test. Light dishes are my specialty." Jongmin was extremely confident in his abilities because he had spent 2 years making soups. He believed that if it came to soups, he was the best. He tasted a bit of his soup and was very pleased with it. He then glanced over at Sung-hoon, seeing 2 pots of boiling water in front of him, one boiling beans and the other seemingly cooking porridge. Jongmin sneered, "Hey kid, are you trying to make some childish dish?" Ignoring Jongmin's taunts, Sung-hoon focused on his work. First, he took the beans out of the boiling water and placed them in a bowl of cold water so the skins could be easily removed to reveal the beans inside. He put the beans in a blender, added some water and a few teaspoons of sugar, and blended until the beans were finely pureed. He poured the mixture into cups. added some crushed ice, and thus prepared a light drink for breakfast. Now, let's focus on the light dish. Nothing is more suitable for breakfast after a heavy meal the night before than a light porridge. It's just plain porridge with a bit of seasoning to taste, a dash of pepper for aroma, and some finely chopped green onions. A simple yet nutritious breakfast was complete. Looking at Sung-hoon's simple dish, Jongmin sneered, "What kind of dish is this? Do you think that's acceptable for this hotel? Look at a real chef's menu. My soup and sandwich are much more appealing." He continued to belittle Sung-hoon. "I can guarantee that my menu will sell much more than your beggar's bean soup. It's a waste that the head chef even gave you a chance." Jongmin arrogantly thought that the head chef was helping him by setting the test as breakfast. After listening to section leader Oh Hyungmin, the head chef also evaluated Sung-hoon's dish. "A drink made from beans and porridge won't kill anyone, right?" The head chef calmly responded. "Is this the first time you've seen these dishes? And that's what you think?" Hyungmin replied, "No hotel would serve that for breakfast. And I don't think it could even work as a dessert." The head chef bluntly retorted, "Do you have the eyes of someone who has worked in the kitchen for 25 years? Everything was ready, and both menus were displayed in the dining hall for the guests to choose from. The menu with the most selections would determine who would represent the hotel in the competition. Meal time arrived, and the guests began to appear in groups. They stood before the breakfast menus, observing and contemplating. Jongmin had an early lead with 4 people choosing his menu while Sung-hoon had only 1. Jongmin's menu continued to be called 2 servings, 3 servings, then 5 servings. In a short time, he had significantly outpaced Sung-hoon, making him extremely smug. Groups of tourists continued to enter the dining room, all hesitating between the 2 breakfast options. Sung-hoon felt a bit anxious, thinking his menu might be too simple. The sous chef, Kim Sung-soo, patted his shoulder and encouraged him. "You did your best." Kang Sung-hoon felt a bit down after hearing that his menu might not be suitable for the hotel. However, his spirits were suddenly lifted when he heard an order from outside the kitchen for 10 of his menus. The turnaround moment had arrived. The order announcement surprised not only Sung-hoon but also sous chef Kim Sung-soo. Menu A: 10 more servings. The head chef, seemingly having predicted this outcome, smiled with satisfaction. "It has started. I trust my eye for talent." Currently, 80% of the hotel's guests were from China, most of them employees of the Hang Seng Company on a company-organized trip. Many of them were visiting Korea for the first time. Between the 2 dishes, porridge with soy milk, and soup with sandwiches, they chose what made them feel comfortable rather than unfamiliar and hard to eat. Sung-hoon had wisely prepared his menu with the thought that familiar foods would be the best choice for Chinese tourists, making them feel at ease without worrying about whether they would like the taste. Orders for 10 more servings of menu A, then another 4, continued to come in. The guests continuously choosing his menu made Sung-hoon's spirits soar. He worked enthusiastically, and all his fatigue seemed to vanish. In contrast, Jongmin's confidence began to crumble. Despite his strong start, he found himself falling far behind. No, this can't be happening. As the cooking contest ended, the 2 stood side by side, waiting for the results with contrasting emotions. Jongmin, still not accepting the outcome, muttered, "My soup and sandwiches lost to porridge and soy milk?" Before he could process this, the head chef entered with the results in hand. Just as Chef Du was about to announce the results, an urgent message from outside the kitchen caused him to pause. An employee hurriedly entered the kitchen to inform him that the general manager was here and wanted to see him immediately. With a bit of apprehension, Chef Du quickly went to meet the general manager, wondering if there was an issue with the menu. But all his worries instantly vanished when the general manager placed a hand on his shoulder and, with a jubilant attitude, praised him. "Chef Du, well done." He revealed that Chairman Hangsen was very pleased with this morning's breakfast. Despite having experienced many hotels before, nowhere else prepared Chinese cuisine as perfectly as they did. His satisfaction led to the decision to book accommodations for 6,000 guests over the next 2 months. Just one delicious meal had secured an extremely lucrative contract for the hotel. making the general manager ecstatic. When Chef Du emerged from the general manager's office in high spirits, he knew he had placed his trust in the right people. As he was about to return to the kitchen to announce the results, he received a call from an unknown number. The person on the other end introduced himself as a producer from KBC. He informed Chef Du of a minor change in the Best Chef competition. Instead of one participant, each hotel kitchen would send 2 representatives. The competition would include both team and individual events. Any hotel that did not meet the required number of participants would be disqualified and receive a poor rating. Putting that matter aside for the moment, Chef Du returned to the kitchen to finish announcing the results, confident that his choices had brought positive outcomes not only for the competition but also for the hotel. Standing before the 2, Chef Du spoke up. "Today is the first time you both are participating in the competition. Since you started working here, how do you feel?" Jongmin, despite being mean-spirited and envious, was very confident. He spoke up. "My cooking skills are perfect. It seems that customers chose Kang Sung-hoon's menu over mine, because they are just country bumpkins who've never stayed in a real hotel." Jongmin's harsh words made sous chef Kim Sung-soo furious. Unable to contain himself, he grabbed Jongmin's collar and shouted, "Du Jongmin, you little brat!" Before he could finish, Jongmin shrugged his hand off and retorted, "What? Did I say something wrong? Look, the committee members chose my menu. Only country bumpkins would choose Sung-hoon's menu. And you, stop pampering him. I have more experience than he does." Despite Jongmin's criticism, Kang Sung-hoon remained silent. Those around him, however, were extremely angry at this junior's arrogance. HMPH, stubborn and ignorant. Can't you see your own mistakes? Chef Du had to step in to defuse the tense situation. He turned to Kang Sung-hoon and asked, "How do you feel today?" Sung-hoon shared his honest thoughts. "I believe that whenever Koreans travel abroad, they always bring ramen and kimchi with them. With that in mind, I had an idea for a menu that Chinese guests might enjoy. But somehow I feel that I've given myself a bad reputation for making dishes that aren't considered luxurious. That's my fault, and I ask for your forgiveness, Chef." Sung-hoon's answer pleased Chef Du greatly. He calmly responded, "Sung-hoon, you are right. When it comes to the hotel's luxury, Jongmin's menu is the correct answer. But in terms of customer satisfaction, Sung-hoon's menu is the right choice. Jongmin, you haven't considered what the customers need most because you are only focused on standards." The chef's words left Jongmin unable to refute. Chef Du continued, "Sung-hoon's menu is very good. But there is one small mistake. Chinese guests typically do not like to eat cold dishes. It was a bit unfortunate that you added ice to the soy milk." Truly a grand chef, Chef Du had a deep understanding of world cuisines. He did not announce the competition results but instead mentioned that the organizers had called with a slight change. Each hotel would now have 2 representatives. Kang Sung-hoon and Jongmin, you will be a team. Go and bring back the best results for our hotel. A few days later, at the Moscow resort, where the initial rounds of the competition were held, many chefs had gathered early. The television production team began filming right from the initial meeting of the contestants, making Kang Sung-hoon feel a bit overwhelmed. Jongmin, on the other hand, was different. He eagerly greeted the other chefs to draw attention. Sung-hoon was focused on how to perform his best, deep in thought and unaware that a familiar person was approaching, an unexpected encounter with an old flame. His ex-girlfriend, So Jae-hee, and her new boyfriend, sous chef Jaeon Hyman, were also participating in the competition. Both were from the Preja Hotel. Sung-hoon saw the girlfriend who had cheated on him. He glanced at her with a cold stare. Anyone who had been publicly cheated on would feel anger. The sous chef showed a displeased look upon seeing Kang Sung-hoon. So Jae-hee, not wanting any trouble, intervened. "Don't pay attention to him, he's not worth your time." Kang Sung-hoon ignored the 2 backstabbers, closed his eyes, and turned away, feeling bored with his ex-girlfriend and her new lover. His good friend Jung Tae arrived. He was thrilled that Sung-hoon was also participating in the competition. They greeted each other warmly, shaking hands. They promised to do their best to achieve the highest results in this competition. Jongmin looked annoyed seeing Sung-hoon acquainted with a chef from the Hilton Hotel, one of the top 20 hotels. At that moment, the lights in the hall went out, indicating the program was about to start. The stage lights came on, and the large doors slowly opened. The man who appeared was a famous chef, Chef Kim Myung-sung, one of the judges of the competition. He had experience working at the Hebrews Hotel in Manhattan, a 3-star Michelin hotel. The next judge was Mrs. Song Yun-jung, with 40 years of culinary experience. She was known as the mother of Korean cuisine. The third judge was the executive chef of the Hilton Hotel, Chef Go Ji-sung, with 30 years of experience. All three were top chefs in Korea. This competition would indeed be very challenging. Judge Kim Myung-sung spoke. "Welcome to all the chefs present here today. Unfortunately, by the end of the day, more than half of you will have to go home. Of course, none of you want to leave. This is why the prize for the winner of this competition is an 80-inch 8K smart TV, a kitchen set from Hunson Enterprise, and finally, a cash prize of up to 100 million won. Sung-hoon looked astonished when he saw the 100 million won prize. His eyes lit up like car headlights. With this 100 million won, I won't have any debts anymore, he thought to himself. The judges led the chefs into the room behind them to start the first round. Inside the room was a table with 50 dishes of ingredients, and none of the chefs knew what the challenge would be this time. Chef Ji-sung announced the challenge. All participants will have to write down the names of the ingredients displayed on the table in the order printed on the prepared sheets. The ingredients can be touched but not cut or eaten. The time to complete this is 15 minutes. The call to start was given, and all the chefs hurried to the ingredients table, each one intently observing and feeling the ingredients. Many of them felt confused, not knowing what the ingredients on the table were. Sung-hoon used his sense of perception and began examining each ingredient. He looked slightly puzzled with the bunch of longangs he was holding. Jongmin also started filling in the ingredient names on his sheet. From his expression, it was clear that he was struggling with this challenge. He didn't know many of the ingredients displayed on the table. He glanced over at Sung-hoon and saw him intensely focused on writing. Jongmin intended to copy Sung-hoon's answers but was hindered by the numerous cameras around. Sung-hoon had filled in most of the ingredient names on his sheet but hesitated with ingredients number 46 and 47. These two ingredients were intentionally placed next to each other. Sung-hoon sensed they were tropical fruits but was still uncertain. As the time was running out, Sung-hoon decided to write down what he knew. The judge announced, "Time's up. All chefs are required to submit their test sheets." The chefs submitted their sheets with various emotions. Some were happy, some were anxious. The judges announced that they would reveal the ranking results after checking each team's scores. After some waiting, the judges returned to the hall and began announcing the results. "Please direct your eyes to the screen." Jongmin, anxious, kept scanning for his name on the leaderboard. He only scored 28 out of 50 points, ranking 148th, clearly at risk of being eliminated. Sung-hoon's ex-girlfriend scored 41 points, ranking 25th, while her new boyfriend scored 43 points, ranking 18th. Both of them looked pleased and sneered at Sung-hoon. "Stop pretending to look for your name. I'm sure you only got a low rank. Go ahead, keep searching." However, Kang Sung-hoon's score and rank on the leaderboard were a slap in the face for those who looked down on him. Her eyes widened in disbelief at the result. Kang Sung-hoon scored 48 out of 50 points, a result that left not only Jae-hee but also Jongmin stunned and speechless. Jae-hee looked at Kang Sung-hoon with envious eyes. How can this be? He's just an apprentice. In the hall, the chefs began to murmur. Who is Kang Sung-hoon? He ranked second. Where is Julia Hotel? I've never heard of it. Indeed, since the hotel was only in the top 100, not many people knew about it. The judge then announced that the chef who ranked first was Go Jung-tae from the Hilton Hotel. The female judge couldn't help but praise him. But the hotel's head chef modestly replied, "No, that's just the average I've taught." He's a bit embarrassed for not scoring the maximum. By ranking first in this round, Go Jung-tae received an exemption from elimination for the competition. The judge announced that the purpose of this round was to assess the individual capabilities in the hotels. If the total score of 2 contestants from one hotel did not reach 75 points, they would be eliminated. Behind the scenes, someone was leisurely reviewing the test papers. Kang Sung-hoon's paper made this person puzzled. His answers for 46 and 47 were marked wrong. The answers should have been Ramyei and Ramit, but she was sure that 46 and 47 were Longan and Sapodiya. She quickly took out her phone and asked Google, realizing that Kang Sung-hoon had answered in Thai, which was why he was marked wrong. Back in the hall, Jongmin breathed a sigh of relief when their combined score reached 76. Without Sung-hoon's excellent performance, they would have both been sent home. However, this ungrateful man did not appreciate it and instead questioned, "You didn't cheat, did you, Kang Sung-hoon?" Sung-hoon simply replied, "I'm not that kind of person." But Jongmin still believed that he had copied Jung-tae's answers just because they were friends. Sung-hoon firmly asserted his honesty, leaving Jongmin with nothing more to say. That evening, Kang Sung-hoon stood alone on the hotel balcony, looking pensive. Jongmin, lacking tact, approached and bluntly asked, "What are you thinking about? Did you break up? I saw that girl, she looks like your girlfriend. And she was with another man." Sung-hoon remained silent, deep in thought, as he took a sip from his beer can and began drinking steadily. Jongmin continued, "I'm not interfering, but the guy with your girlfriend, he's a asshole. I know that Jaeon Hyman guy, we went to the same school." Kang Sung-hoon didn't blame Jae-hee, he simply said softly, "It's okay, dating her was my choice. We broke up because she was too tired of me. I don't hold any grudges against them. But their disdainful looks during the competition irritated me. I can't forgive them for that." Crushing the beer can, Kang Sung-hoon's demeanor exuded determination. The next morning, while Jongmin was still drunk, Sung-hoon was already awake. He sat there intently reading through pages of a cookbook. Suddenly, he remembered a day 5 years ago at the hospital. That day, he and his family received devastating news from the doctor. His father's cancer had metastasized to all the organs in his body and was no longer treatable. The doctor's words were like a bolt of lightning, shattering his spirit and leaving the family in endless despair and tears. Kang Sung-hoon's father, however, remained calm, as if he had mentally prepared himself for this bad news. He gently asked the doctor, "Tell me, how much time do I have left?" The doctor replied, 6 months. Kang Sung-hoon's father squinted, looking a bit weary. 6 months. He turned to look at Sung-hoon, as if he wanted to say something. Sung-hoon could feel what his father wanted him to do. After being discharged from the hospital, his father spent the remaining time of his life taking Kang Sung-hoon everywhere to explore. He taught him about ingredients, let him taste the distinctive dishes of each region, and taught him how to sense and differentiate ingredients. Time passed quickly, and the moment when the father and son had to part ways between life and death was approaching. As they watched the sunset together for the last time, father and son held hands tightly, not letting go. They said nothing, but the love they had for each other was immeasurable. When the day of parting finally arrived, Sung-hoon's father, like a flickering oil lamp about to go out, lay weakly on his hospital bed, struggling to breathe his last breaths. He mustered his remaining strength to call for Sung-hoon. His trembling hand, devoid of strength, tried to hold his precious notebook and handed it to his son. He said, "This is the collection of recipes I've gathered throughout my life. I hope you will use it wisely." With a warm smile, he uttered his final words. Kang Sung-hoon, become a great chef. The saddest day also became the day Sung-hoon found the motivation to return to the culinary path. Holding the notebook in his hands, Sung-hoon whispered his gratitude to his father, donned his chef's attire, and prepared for a new day of competition. Meanwhile, Jongmin was still sound asleep. The announcement echoed, "It is now 5:10 a.m. The briefing time has been changed to 5:15 a.m. Please head to the first floor." Sung-hoon was ready. He put on his hat and left, saying, "I'll go down first. You have 5 minutes to get dressed and come down quickly." Down in the lobby, The judges and the program crew were already present, surprised to see someone arrive so early. It was Sung-hoon, dressed neatly and confidently, who greeted the judges politely. The head chef handed him the #1 ticket and said, "Go sit over there and wait." Sung-hoon had a habit of waking up early because he often needed to go to the market early to buy ingredients. Lost in thought, he suddenly heard Jung Tae calling, "Hey, Sung-hoon, didn't you see me? Are you trying to avoid me?" The two friends casually sat down and chatted about the competition the previous day. At that moment, dozens of hurried footsteps echoed as the other chefs rushed down to the lobby. Their uniforms still disheveled. The judge shouted, "Stop," displaying his irritation. "Your uniforms must be worn properly. An imperfect chef cannot pass this test. Stand in front of the mirror and fix yourselves. Return when everything is in order. Quickly." Behind, the judge checked his watch. It was already 5:15 a.m. He immediately stood up and began to announce the number of people who passed the test. 7. These 7 individuals are qualified to have the opportunity to present their dishes to the 3 judges for the first time. You will have to demonstrate your skills to continue to the next round. Kang Sung-hoon, being the earliest to arrive, received an exemption from elimination, similar to Go Jung Tae. This is an independent test. Those who are qualified, stay. The other contestants may leave. A few chefs expressed their dissatisfaction, muttering complaints. "Are they kidding me? So what was yesterday about?" "Exactly. We aren't lazy. We still have to gather early in the morning. It really makes me want to puke." These unpleasant remarks reached Judge Ji Sung's ears. Although he remained calm, his voice carried a significant amount of anger. "What did you just say?" The previously loud-mouthed contestant stammered. "No, nothing, sir." But Chef Ji Sung did not let it go so easily. He asked the cameraman to replay the footage for the 2 guys to watch. Both of them, sweating profusely, were extremely worried. Chef Ji Sung decisively took their name tags and announced their elimination. He threw the name tags on the ground and stomped on them, showing no mercy. The consequences of not using their mouths properly were harsh. Chef Ji Sung turned and coldly walked away, leaving the 2 chefs in despair. The producer's assistant asked, "Should we save this scene?" He smiled and replied, "Of course. He enjoys such drama. This will definitely boost the show's ratings." The contestants who passed the sudden test were required to prepare a dish of their choice and present it to the judges by 11 o'clock. They could freely choose from the ingredients provided in the kitchen. Sung-hoon was very excited about this opportunity, encouraging himself to perform well. He pondered how to create a dish that would leave a deep impression on the judges. In the waiting room, the judges and the producer were reviewing the personal information of those who passed the sudden test. They were very impressed with Sung-hoon, knowing he was still an intern. Chef Ji Sung was particularly interested when he felt familiar with the name Kang Sung-hoon. He had a feeling he had come across this name somewhere before. The producer received the notification that Kang Sung-hoon was ready to present his dish. All 3 judges were eagerly anticipating to see how this intern would perform. The door opened, and Kang Sung-hoon, with a face full of confidence, pushed the cart in. Judge Ji Sung spoke up. "Please introduce yourself." Sung-hoon, confidently, he introduced. "I am Kang Sung-hoon from Julia Hotel. Please guide me." Chef Myung Sung then asked, "Please, Kang Sung-hoon, introduce your dish." Sung-hoon calmly lifted the lid, revealing 3 perfectly browned grilled ribs, presented very simply on the plate. Judge Ji Sung asked, "This is tuk galbi. Can you tell us why you chose this dish?" Kang Sung-hoon replied, "Yes, chef. It's the most impressive dish from a book I really like. I am very confident in this dish." Ji Sung continued, "You are currently an intern, in a helper position, correct?" "Yes, chef." Kang Sung-hoon responded. Ji Sung pressed on, "If you are an intern, I honestly think you shouldn't be able to make this. It doesn't seem appropriate for your position at Julia Hotel." Sung-hoon recognized the implied questions from the head chef. Ji Sung was pretending to ask about his position and then shifted to asking about the hotel. He hinted that Sung-hoon was a chef at a foreign hotel. and Ji-sung was somewhat curious. So, did you learn cooking formally? I noticed you mentioned a book. Sung-hoon, though slightly displeased, did not show it on his face. His dish was gradually cooling down. They seemed more interested in his background than the flavor of the food, indicating they had low expectations for his cooking. Lowering their expectations might actually make them more surprised by the taste. Sung-hoon clearly answered the question. Yes. I learned it from a book. I learned it from a manga. Kang Sung-hoon's answer made the three judges of the competition express dissatisfaction. They all thought his idea was crazy. Indeed, their attitude showed they had little expectation for the flavor of a dish learned from a manga. All three judges picked up their chopsticks, looking at the dish for a long time without touching it. Sung-hoon was still eagerly waiting for his dish to be tasted. Chef Ji-sung was the first to show a bit of disappointment. The dish seemed to lack sauce, but he reluctantly picked up a piece of rib and brought it to his mouth. He took a bite, then closed his eyes and chewed slowly to savor it. Suddenly, his eyes widened, displaying surprise. The other judges finally took their bites as well. They picked up the grilled ribs, dipped them into a small bowl of sauce on the side, and brought them to their mouths. Taking a big bite, they savored the flavor. Judge Myung-sung's eyes widened, clearly showing amazement. Besides the main dish, Sung-hoon had also prepared 3 cups of dessert tea, waiting for them to be tasted. He brought out 3 cups of tea with a beautiful emerald green color, still hot to the touch. Mr. Myung-sung immediately noticed the soft, aromatic scent of the tea. It smells wonderful. Is this lotus tea? He gently brought the cup to his lips and took a sip. Sung-hoon was a bit tense since they had not yet made any comments on his menu. Judge Myung-sung, after tasting the tea, showed clear satisfaction with a slight smile on his face. The most tense moment finally arrived. Kang Sung-hoon stood solemnly, waiting for the result. Mr. Ji-sung was the first to speak. We have tasted your dish. Did you intend to pair it with lotus tea? Sung-hoon reiterated that he had seen it in a manga and decided to create it based on that idea. Mr. Ji-sung said nothing more and simply told him he could leave. His face remained expressionless until the producer noticed something unusual and instructed the cameraman. Stop filming for a moment. Then Mr. Ji-sung, his face turning fierce, cursed angrily, "That bastard." The producer silently thanked their luck. Thank God we stopped filming. Judge Yun-jung, what do you think? Ji-sung asked. The judges indeed shared the same opinion. Mrs. Yun-jung said, I agree with you. He's a scoundrel. He claims to have gotten the idea from a manga, which is a lie. In my 40 years of cooking, I never thought someone would cook with such a mindset. Judge Ji-sung found it a bit odd. Is he trying to tarnish the hotel's image or does he not want others to notice him? His attitude is strange, but the dish was excellent. Those grilled ribs were truly impressive, with the mushrooms wrapped in tuk galbi. Usually, I use oyster mushrooms, but he used pine mushrooms. Mr. Ji-sung turned to the producer and asked quietly, Are there many pine mushrooms among the ingredients? The producer replied, No, due to the high production cost. We don't have many. Pine mushrooms are an expensive ingredient. I only included a few to experiment. Mr. Ji-sung continued his critique of the dish. I can sense a lot of flavors. I think that's why he chose pine mushrooms. However, it still puzzles me. Typically, pine mushrooms have a strong aroma and flavor, which shouldn't go well with beef. But that tuk galbi was delicious, and all its flavors were excellent. Judge Myung-sung then enthusiastically added, That's kiwi. He used kiwi to blend with the aroma of pine mushrooms. I guess he used it instead of sugar. He really knows his stuff. He's an intern with only 4 years of experience. But he impressed me. I want to take him on as my apprentice. Mr. Ji-sung sat quietly for a moment, contemplating something, then turned to the producer and said, I've changed my mind. Besides the 7 contestants who have moved on, I want the other contestants from the hotels where those 7 work to also present a dish of their own. The producer was a bit surprised. Wait. If we do that, what about the second part of the competition in the evening? All 3 judges agreed to postpone that part to implement this new idea. Kang Sung-hoon had made them feel very interested and full of expectations. They were looking forward to experiencing that excitement once again. Since it was the judge's decision, the producer had to agree with it. Back to Kang Sung-hoon. After leaving the competition room, he was on his way back to his room. Sung-hoon's facial muscles finally relaxed a bit, to be honest. He had turned the theme into a manga story. Using rare ingredients was a good gamble as it had succeeded. Kang Sung-hoon also felt satisfied with his ingredient exploration this time. 2 hours earlier, Sung-hoon was preparing the ingredients for his menu. In his hands was a tray of beef. He touched it and used his sensory ability. Images of healthy cows grazing on lush green pastures immediately appeared, and he smiled with satisfaction at having obtained good ingredients. Then Sung-hoon noticed a box of mushrooms in the back. He hesitated, unsure whether to add them to his dish. Sung-hoon used his ingredient memory ability again, but strangely, he saw a pine forest. What the hell? The main character has the superpower to sense the history of ingredients? This is like hacking the game. Kang Sung-hoon was surprised because the box of ingredients in front of him was supposed to be king oyster mushrooms. Why did the images relate to a pine forest? He sat down and continuously rummaged through the ingredients to find something. Kang Sung-hoon was astonished when he saw it, a pine mushroom. A rare and extremely expensive ingredient, and also very delicious. It turned out that 2 to 3 types of ingredients were mixed together. Sung-hoon thought the program was trying to hide it to challenge the participants' exploration skills. Having found a good ingredient, Sung-hoon immediately thought of the tuk galbi dish and completed it to present to the judges. Returning to his room, Sung-hoon let out a sigh of relief, releasing all the tension he had just experienced. Before he could fully relax, Jongmin came over to hassle him. "Hey kid, why do you cook based on manga like some otaku? Are you messing around with the hotel?" Kang Sung-hoon didn't explain and simply said, "Don't worry, I cook well. I'm sure you saw it. Did you see the judge cursing?" Jongmin was annoyed but couldn't argue back. He realized that Kang Sung-hoon's attitude had changed significantly since last night. Since the day's work was done, Kang Sung-hoon planned to rest a bit. At the same time, Jongmin received a message on his phone from the show's producer. The message stated that they wanted him to showcase his cooking skills. And both were surprised to learn that the competition schedule had been changed. The second competition in the evening was postponed, replaced by a personal skills demonstration. Since it was the organizers' decision, they had to comply. Kang Sung-hoon patted Jongmin on the shoulder to encourage him. "Don't stress too much, senior. Just relax, and you'll do fine." Jongmin forced a grin to show Kang Sung-hoon that he was confident in his abilities. At this time, Sung-hoon also received a message from the production team, inviting him to a private interview at 7 p.m. Kang Sung-hoon agreed. He wished his senior good luck in the competition before taking a rest. That evening, Sung-hoon went down to the lobby as scheduled. A girl from the show's production team was waiting to welcome him. This beautiful girl was named Song Mina. She was the scriptwriter for the show. Song Mina invited Kang Sung-hoon to the hotel's cafe to start the interview. Being interviewed for the first time and on television made Kang Sung-hoon a bit nervous. Song Mina didn't rush him. "Don't be too nervous. Just answer the questions comfortably." Her friendliness helped Sung-hoon calm down a bit. Opening the interview, Song Mina asked a simple question. "You've been working at the hotel for 4 years, right?" Although it was a simple question, Kang Sung-hoon hesitated before answering, taking a moment to reply. "Yes, that's right. 4 years." Song Mina sensed something unusual. Such a simple question made Kang Sung-hoon hesitate. She thought about making things a bit more challenging for him with the next question. She asked, "When you introduced your dish, the judges acted rudely. Did you feel insulted?" This time, Sung-hoon did not hesitate and answered immediately, "To be honest, I did feel insulted. I think they didn't respect me just because I come from a 4-star hotel. I believe that's why they asked those questions." Song Mina felt excited because Sung-hoon suddenly answered very well. She continued with the next question. "You made tuk galbi to showcase your skills. Besides the story you mentioned, was there any other reason you chose to cook that dish? Talking about the dish, Kang Sung-hoon's demeanor changed, and he became completely relaxed as he answered. Took galbi as a dish best eaten in one bite. Primarily because it has a mild flavor. That's why I didn't explain it to the judges. At that time, I wanted them to eat the food before it got cold rather than explaining it. Before Kang Sung-hoon could finish, Mina interrupted. So, you cook using manga to get the judges to focus on your dish. Right? Her words hit the mark, making Kang Sung-hoon a bit flustered. But Mina was pleased with his honest answers. She asked him one final question before concluding the interview. Please tell us your decision for the rest of the competition. Kang Sung-hoon hesitated a bit, his hands trembling on his lap. But then his attitude became determined and full of fighting spirit. He answered seriously and firmly, I will definitely rank first. This answer somewhat surprised Song Mina. The evening concluded well with an unexpectedly successful interview. Everyone said their goodbyes and returned to work. Watching Kang Sung-hoon leave, Mina asked her cameraman friend, what do you think of his final answer? The cameraman thought it was just a typical answer. But Song Mina, being more perceptive, thought differently. It seems like he is aiming for a personal victory. That's why he wants to rank first. She also sensed that Kang Sung-hoon was hiding a secret. Song Mina smiled intriguingly. All the more reason for me to make sure he reveals it on camera. Ha ha, I love people with secrets. Returning to Jongmin, he was standing outside the judge's evaluation room, trying to reassure himself. Don't be afraid. I'll do better than that Kang Sung-hoon. Inside, the judges were reviewing the information about the contestants. Jongmin was the last one to present his dish, and they had some expectations knowing he was from the same hotel as Kang Sung-hoon. They hoped for a dish as good as Kang Sung-hoon's. The door swung open, and Jongmin pushed the cart in with full enthusiasm. Go Jongmin. Let's do this, Judge Myung-sung said with interest. You look passionate. So, what have you prepared for us? Jongmin eagerly unveiled his dish, revealing grilled pork ribs and grilled shrimp accompanied by vegetables. Judge Ji-sung looked at the dish with some indifference, while Judge Myung-sung seemed a bit weary. Another meat dish? Myung-sung asked, turning to the producer. Is everything being filmed? The producer replied that only the 7 contestants who passed the sudden test were being filmed. At this point, I started feeling uneasy about Jongmin. Judge Myung-sung turned to ask Jongmin about his 6 years of experience. Jongmin confidently replied that he had 6 years of experience specializing in soups. Without wasting any more time, Judge Ji-sung asked Jongmin, explain the concept of this dish to me. When he heard the question, Jongmin was at a loss for words. He thought about Kang Sung-hoon's story and said that he got the idea from reading manga. His answer seemed to displease the judges, but they didn't say anything further and proceeded to examine the dish. Mr. Ji-sung picked up a rib and took a small bite, his expression revealing that the rib was far from satisfactory. Mr. Myung-sung took a shrimp, peeled it after a long pause, and took a bite, also showing signs of dissatisfaction. The female judge, after separating 2 ribs with her hands, sighed and put them back on the plate. Jongmin felt anxious as all 3 judges seemed indifferent to his dish. Trying to grab attention, he spoke loudly, I have prepared something other than the dish. The judges, not expecting much, reluctantly agreed, but what he had prepared was not another dish, but a song. This audacious attempt to sing a silly song with a goat kesi voice made Judge Song Yun-jung angrily shout. Shut up, be quiet, you're making me very annoyed. The head judge, Ji-sung, with a terrifying expression, spoke coldly, you're Du Jongmin, right? He added, what on earth are you thinking? You're just a fool who knows nothing about cooking. Have you ever even tried cooking? The barrage of questions and the judge's furious attitudes left Jongmin utterly bewildered. Pointing at the dish, Mr. Ji-sung irritably remarked, your dish is terrible. You have 6 years of experience. But your cooking is a joke. Did you remove the blood from the ribs? Jongmin stammered in fear, I didn't have enough time. Mr. Ji-sung, even more annoyed, responded. So you skipped that step? How long did you boil the ribs? About 20 minutes. Jongmin replied nervously. Judge Go Ji-sung, pointing at the plate of ribs, shouted, Look, if you have eyes, take a good look. The blood is still oozing out. Mrs. Song Yun-jung continued the criticism. You didn't even remove the smell of the meat. The three judges showed no mercy. They harshly criticized Jongmin's dish, using the most severe words. You were too careless with the dish. The shrimp and ribs are undercooked, and the seasoning is bland with just a little salt. You didn't consider the compatibility of the ingredients. It's terrible that you have 6 years of experience. From start to finish, the judge's harsh criticism and anger completely crushed Jongmin. He felt like he was falling into a deep pit with no way out. Was his career as a chef going to disappear just like that? In the end, Judge Ji-sung still couldn't swallow his anger. He pointed directly at Jongmin's face and ordered, Contestant Do Jongmin, you must eat this dish tonight and make sure you don't leave anything behind. Eat it and reflect on your mistakes. There is no excuse for such incompetence. Jongmin, disappointed, slowly pushed his cart out. Jongmin's poor performance severely impacted the image of Julia Hotel, leading all the judges to have a negative assessment of the hotel. Mr. Ji-sung expressed his disappointment at having decided to change the competition. He was disheartened by having expected too much from a chef coming from a 4-star hotel. Back in the resting room, Kang Sung-hoon was still studying additional recipes from the notebook his father had left him before passing away. Jongmin entered with a sorrowful expression, carrying a plate of food. Sensing something was wrong, Sung-hoon asked with concern. Jongmin, what's wrong? Jongmin remained silent for a moment before replying in a disheartened tone. I didn't do well. I think I should go home. Kang Sung-hoon reminded him that they had a test the next afternoon and that he should rest to prepare himself. Jongmin looked at his plate of food, unable to muster any cheerfulness because he had created something so poor. The next beautiful morning, Sung-hoon, as usual, woke up early and prepared himself neatly for an energetic new day. In contrast, Jongmin, with dark circles under his eyes looking like a panda, said that he hadn't been able to sleep. The severe setback had kept him restless all night. Sung-hoon encouraged him. There's an energy drink in the fridge. Drink it. The program is about to start. Let's work together and do our best. The time for the final challenge had arrived. The doors of the competition hall opened, revealing dozens of beautifully arranged kitchen stations, all equipped with high-end, mesmerizing equipment, truly a dream come true for aspiring chefs. Despite being prepared, Sung-hoon was still taken aback by the splendor of the space. The judges were present to supervise the competition. Today's test theme was naengmyeon, Korean cold noodles. A guest judge, the director of Hun Company, which provided all the equipment for today's competition, explained the test rules. Prepare a bowl of naengmyeon and present it within 30 minutes to the judges. 4 teams will be evaluated at a time. The team with the lowest score will be eliminated. Another requirement is that the noodles must be made entirely by hand. Kang Sung-hoon immediately understood the judge's intention. Making naengmyeon by hand was a test of teamwork and coordination. First, they needed to choose the type of noodles or broth, then decide which type of naengmyeon to make. The competition officially began, while Sung-hoon was focused on deciding which type of noodles to make. Jongmin, asserting his seniority, made decisions without consulting him. He chose to make type 3 noodles, a variety made from buckwheat flour. He decided to handle the noodles and instructed Sung-hoon to make the broth. Kang Sung-hoon, feeling uneasy, sought clarification. Senior, which type of naengmyeon are we making? Jongmin, irritated, snapped. Naengmyeon is naengmyeon. Why are you asking such silly questions? If I told you to make the broth, obviously it's for naengmyeon. Stop asking and focus on your work. Sung-hoon felt a bit frustrated but didn't want to argue or cause drama on television. So he started his task. The first thing he chose was ready-made kimchi to serve as a side dish. The next step was to choose the ingredients for the broth. Sung-hoon selected a piece of premium fresh beef, along with garlic, green onions, and onions. He also picked an ingredient he hadn't used in cold noodles before. But he wanted to try it this time. Jongmin, on the other side, had started kneading the dough. Seeing Sung-hoon bringing the ingredients, Jongmin urged, "Hurry up, or we won't have the broth ready in time." He was still irritated from the harsh criticism he received the previous day. He wanted to use today's competition to redeem himself and, more importantly, he didn't want to lose to his junior, Kang Sung-hoon. However, wanting to do something and being able to do it are two different things. Despite kneading the dough for a long time, the dough still didn't come together. Sung-hoon had already begun prepping the ingredients. Due to the time constraint, he couldn't simmer the broth for long, so he cut the meat into small pieces to cook and release flavors more quickly. He put all the cleaned and prepped ingredients into a pot of boiling water, adding seasoning to taste. While Sung-hoon was nearly finished with his task, Jongmin was still struggling with the dough. Seeing that Jongmin was spending a lot of time on the noodles, Sung-hoon decided to take on the plating. He boiled eggs with vinegar and salt, used kimchi, and pickled radish as garnishes. Once the water boiled, he turned off the heat and let the eggs steep for 10 minutes to achieve a soft boiled consistency. The broth was also set to cool. With about 5 minutes remaining, everything was almost ready, only the noodles were left to complete the dish. Sung-hoon suddenly remembered and turned to ask Jongmin, "The noodles will be ready soon, right, senior?" Jongmin, still irritated, snapped, "Don't worry about that and just do your work." But the truth was that Jongmin's dough wasn't sticking together, making it impossible to pull into noodles. Realizing something was wrong, Sung-hoon rushed over and asked, "Senior, don't tell me you only used soba flour?" Jongmin stubbornly replied, "Isn't soba noodles made with soba flour?" Kang Sung-hoon explained, "No, soba flour needs to be mixed with some starch. If you only use soba flour, you can't stretch the dough into noodles because there isn't enough gluten in the flour." Jongmin finally realized his mistake. But there wasn't enough time to start over. Sung-hoon pushed him aside and rolled up his sleeves to quickly fix the error. This time, Sung-hoon literally carried the entire team on his back. If there were a competition called, "Do Everything, Get Nothing," he'd be the undefeated champion. And Jongmin? Just there to make up the head count. His contribution was about as useful as a decorative plant. Sung-hoon asked him to get some ice, then to scoop out the eggs and turn off the stove. Jongmin, irritated, asked, "What the heck, are you planning to do everything?" Pressed for time, Sung-hoon snapped angrily, "Then you do it." Sung-hoon's serious attitude forced Jongmin to comply. Sung-hoon ignored everything else and focused on fixing the faulty soba dough. He added potato starch and started kneading furiously. With only 10 minutes left in the competition, he had to work quickly. With 8 minutes remaining, the noodles had yet to be pulled. With 5 minutes remaining, with 3 minutes remaining, Sung-hoon managed to pull the noodles and started boiling them. With 1 minute remaining, the noodles were taken out and cooled in water. Sung-hoon's resigned expression indicated that the dish had significant shortcomings. The competition time ended, and 4 bowls of noodles were placed before the judges. Sung-hoon's team was lucky to have finished in time. All contestants eagerly awaited the judges' evaluations. Surprisingly, Sung-hoon's ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend were also present for the evaluation. The ex-girlfriend's new chef boyfriend was very confident that they wouldn't be eliminated. Thinking their competition was just Sung-hoon, the judges began tasting the dishes to evaluate them. The first team to be evaluated was Sung-hoon's ex-girlfriend and her boyfriend. Even before tasting, the judges could tell that their dish was a type of cold noodle called hamhung, made from sweet potato starch. After commenting on the ingredients, they began tasting. Seeing the judges taste the noodles rather indifferently made the ex-girlfriend and her boyfriend quite nervous. Mr. Ji-sung was the first to give his assessment. Overall, it was quite ordinary. The noodles and broth were nothing special. "I give you 275 points," he said, and all 3 judges agreed with the score. The next dish was spicy mixed noodles called bibimbap. After tasting, the judges concluded that the dish was quite ordinary but still better than the previous teams. And they were awarded 80 points. The following dish was makguksu noodles from Team Elms. Despite lacking knowledge, Jongmin, observant as ever, asked Sung-hoon, "Is makguksu also cold noodles?" Kang Sung-hoon, exasperated, replied, "Yes. It is also a type of cold noodles." Just by looking at the noodles, Mrs. Yun-jung seemed quite pleased. Mr. Ji-sung also praised it, saying it was better than he had expected. After tasting, the three judges were satisfied with this cold noodle dish. They awarded the team an impressive score of 90 points. Jae-hee grew anxious because her team had the lowest score so far. If Sung-hoon's team scored higher, she would be eliminated, which would be a slap in the face for her after leaving him for the older man. She openly stated, "If we lose, I'll break up with you." Kang Sung-hoon was also extremely tense. Knowing that the hurriedly made dish likely had significant shortcomings, the three judges began tasting Sung-hoon's team's dish, initially appearing to find faults but then changing their expressions. After finishing, Mr. Ji-sung seemed very pleased. Kang Sung-hoon was surprised to see him smiling. Mr. Ji-sung gently asked, "Who made the noodles?" Kang Sung-hoon pondered. Jongmin had started, but he had fixed them. Before he could decide whether to speak up, Jongmin boldly claimed the credit. "I made the noodles." Mr. Ji-sung asked once more, and then his attitude changed quickly, as abruptly as a lover turning cold. He angrily shouted, "Are you out of your mind? Jongmin, you tried to cook the noodles at high heat, and they are undercooked. Do you know that? Why did you create such a dish?" Mr. Ji-sung's continuous questioning left Jongmin pale with fear. He quickly shifted the blame to Sung-hoon. "It was him. Not me. I meant contestant Kang Sung-hoon." Sung-hoon couldn't believe he was teamed up with someone who would play dirty, willing to throw a teammate under the bus for personal gain. Editor comment, "Damn, if it were me, I'd punch him right in the face." Back to the story, Jongmin claimed he only handled the broth and plating. Sung-hoon, filled with anger, couldn't say a word against the deceit. Mr. Ji-sung asked once more, "Are you sure?" Sung-hoon didn't defend himself, knowing any explanation would sound like an excuse. Jongmin had shifted all the blame onto him. Sung-hoon clenched his fists, barely holding back the rage boiling inside him. If this weren't a televised show, that fake face would have already taken a punch. He gritted his teeth. His thoughts locked on the teammate who had just shrugged off all responsibility like he'd never even touched the noodles. Mr. Ji-sung, with a gaze as sharp as a blade, turned and asked Sung-hoon directly, and he, staying true to his usual straightforwardness, didn't deny that he was the one who made the noodles. That was it. After carrying the whole team on his own, what he got in return was a knife in the back from someone on his side. The silence, and Jongmin's perfectly calm face, like saying, "The blame's on everyone but me," only made everything feel even more disgusting. Mr. Ji-sung began to grow angry, his face filled with disappointment, and his eyes were laced with contempt. "I was right. This team is beyond saving. 4-star hotel? That's all it is. Weak skills, even weaker spirit. Just a bunch of trainees dressed in fancy uniforms. Nothing but trash." But the Tuk Galbi was actually good. Mr. Ji-sung stood up, declaring, "I don't need to score this dish. Contestant from Julia Hotel, you are eliminated." Kang Sung-hoon closed his eyes, resigned. He didn't want to be eliminated in such a ridiculous manner, but there was no solution left. He had to accept it. As the couple who betrayed him celebrated, Judge Myung-sung's voice rang out. He calmly said, "It's strange. Your explanation and what I saw are completely different. You said Kang Sung-hoon made the noodles, while you did the broth and plating. But what I saw was Kang Sung-hoon choosing the ingredients and preparing the broth, while you, Jongmin, were kneading the dough. Am I correct?" Jongmin was hit right at his weak spot by the judge's comment. Fearful, he still refused to admit his mistake and continued blaming Sung-hoon. "That's when I was doing a good job kneading the dough. But he insisted on making the noodles." Judge Myung-sung asked further, "You say you were doing a good job kneading the dough. Are you sure about that? I saw that when you chose the flour. You must have picked pure soba flour without thinking, which is why the dough clumped together." didn't stick, and tore easily. With time running out, the noodles were still not done. I think Kang Sung-hoon argued and then tried to fix the faulty dough. If what I'm saying is not accurate, let's review the footage. Everything I've said is precise. And you can't deceive us any longer. Jongmin, realizing he was cornered, had no choice but to bow his head and accept his mistake in humiliation. Mr. Ji-sung coldly reached out and removed Jongmin's name tag without any hesitation. Contestant Jongmin, thank you for participating. With his poor skills and deceit, his elimination was unquestionable. Unfortunately for Sung-hoon, he had to immediately deal with this incompetent but arrogant teammate. Mr. Ji-sung turned to Sung-hoon, thanks to your senior. You were almost eliminated. How do you feel about that? Sung-hoon frowned. I feel very disappointed. Disappointed because your senior ruined the dish and lied to everyone? Sung-hoon shook his head. Calm but firm. No, sir. I'm disappointed in myself. We could have done better. I take full responsibility for my performance. Ji-sung remained indifferent. Your tuk galbi yesterday was good. But that's it. Jongmin's ribs and shrimp were subpar. And today's cold noodles? No better. He raised his voice. Yesterday's dish was just luck. Today's cold noodles show your hotel's true skill level. Julia Hotel is the worst. Both of you are eliminated. Mrs. Yun Jung interrupted. Wait a minute. We still need to score the dish. Why are you making all the decisions on your own? Mr. Ji-sung insisted that there was no need to score the dish. Mrs. Yun Jung countered. The hastily made noodles were indeed of poor quality. But the broth is completely different. Mr. Myung-sung also agreed that the broth was very good. He didn't hesitate to drink a little more and was extremely pleased. Mrs. Yun Jung asked, you used beef brisket and chicken for the broth, didn't you? Sung-hoon honestly replied, when I opened the fridge to get ingredients for the broth and garnish. I saw chicken, so I used chicken and beef brisket to make a traditional broth. To remove the odor, I cooked them with pepper and bay leaves. Mrs. Yun Jung was pleased with his response and handling, giving Kang Sung-hoon 85 points. Mr. Myung-sung agreed and turned to Mr. Ji-sung, asking, do you still think we shouldn't score the dish? Mr. Ji-sung was visibly annoyed at having his decision challenged. It seemed there was some internal conflict among the judges, but Mr. Ji-sung remained adamant about eliminating Julia Hotel from the competition. He demanded that Sung-hoon return his name tag and leave. Kang Sung-hoon stood silently for a moment before speaking up. I don't have any hopes about this. But even though it's just a 4-star hotel, it is a wonderful place. My senior is also a good person. Just pressured too much and made some mistakes. I hope you understand that. In the end, Sung-hoon still defended his senior, which made Jongmin feel guilty for treating him poorly. Mr. Ji-sung reached out, demanding Sung-hoon return his name tag. But Sung-hoon reached into his pocket and pulled out an exemption card. Sung-hoon used it to save himself. Although Mr. Ji-sung was displeased, he had to accept it as it was part of the show's rules. Thanks to Do Jongmin, the underperforming couple was saved. But this did not change the fact that Jongmin was eliminated. Given his performance and actions, there was no way he could stay. That very evening, Jongmin caught a bus back to the hotel. Kang Sung-hoon, having put everything behind him, went to see his senior off. Sung-hoon hoped that after this incident, his senior would change, otherwise, today's events would surely repeat themselves someday. On the way back, Jongmin had many worries. His failure and deceit had been broadcast on television, making him feel angry and uncertain about how to deal with the situation. Meanwhile, Judge Ji-sung was in his room, drinking alone. The events of the competition had left him annoyed, especially when Judge Kim Myung-sung openly opposed his decision. Ji-sung, arrogant and accustomed to having others follow his lead, used his position in the culinary world to pressure others. As he was drinking, there was a knock on the door. It was Judge Kim Myung-sung. Ji-sung showed his irritation but still invited Myung-sung in to talk. Sitting calmly, he asked what the matter was. Myung-sung got straight to the point. Why did you do that? Senior? You deliberately avoided scoring them today, didn't you? Ji-sung maintained his stance. insisting that the dish was too terrible for him to consider scoring. But Myung-sung highlighted the true intention behind their decision. The cold noodle test was meant to focus the contestants on making the noodles. But the real purpose was to evaluate the broth. And it was you who suggested this. Ji-sung felt uncomfortable being questioned by his junior. He took a sip of his drink and then slammed the glass down on the table. Raising his voice, Kim Myung-sung, it seems you've forgotten, but we should crush that rude bastard. Have you forgotten how you were humiliated for 15 years in the US? Remember, that bastard presented his dish to us first. And he lied about being the youngest chef. We shouldn't give him a chance, he should be eliminated as soon as possible. It seemed that Kang Sung-hoon's initial presentation had left a deep bias in Ji-sung, making him want to use his power to eliminate someone he disliked. Myung-sung disagreed with Ji-sung's approach. I can't understand it. To evaluate a chef, we must base it on their foundation and their dish. What you're doing is discrimination. Didn't you give contestant Go Jong-tae perfect score? Those noodles didn't deserve a perfect score. In response to Myung-sung's questioning, Ji-sung coldly replied, remember that we're in Korea, not America. You and I have different starting points. I have a solid foundation in Korea. I could even go into politics after the broadcast. You should make the right decision. Regardless of whose side you're on, the result won't change. Ji-sung openly stated his power and his intention to use it to support his protege Go Jong-tae. Mr. Myung-sung openly opposed Ji-sung, firmly stating that he would support Kang Sung-hoon because Kang Sung-hoon had made a significant impression on him. Kang Sung-hoon had carefully done his part well and had even tried to fix his teammates' mistakes. Although the dish wasn't perfect, Sung-hoon remained calm and bravely accepted his teammates' errors. It was this resilient and confident attitude that attracted Myung-sung. Myung-sung could clearly see that Kang Sung-hoon had the potential to develop great talent. And thus he wanted to give him all the support he could. His decision made Ji-sung tremble with anger, as it was a direct challenge to his authority. Myung-sung continued, I know, and I won't let you have full control over this competition. From the task of guessing the names of 50 ingredients to the sudden challenge. And you call this a fair competition? If you want to change my decision, I think you should stop secretly helping Hilton Hotel and Go Jong-tae. Having said all that needed to be said, Myung-sung didn't feel the need to explain further. He left Ji-sung seething with anger. Ji-sung hadn't expected anyone to dare challenge his authority. Fine, do it your way. I have my own methods. After all, this competition was already rigged. Everything was almost under his control, if not for the unexpected appearance of Kang Sung-hoon from a third-rate hotel. At the show's production team, they were discussing selecting a character for the show from the remaining contestants. They wanted to choose someone with good commercial value and a compelling personal story, which would draw more interest and boost the show's ratings. Both the scriptwriter and the producer were paying attention to Sung-hoon. The scriptwriter felt that Sung-hoon was hiding something during the first interview and had investigated. She discovered that Sung-hoon's mother was suffering from a serious illness. Both of them thought this would be a great story behind the contestant. Another member suggested choosing Go Jong-tae because he had scored the maximum points and was a chef at a top hotel. He was seen as an ideal candidate. Everyone agreed with this proposal, and the scriptwriter came up with an interesting scenario. It would be intriguing to pit the two against each other. A poor young chef from a third-rate hotel and a well-trained chef from a top hotel. This would create a compelling narrative. At that moment, the producer received a phone call. He looked serious as he saw the caller ID, stood up, and said he had an urgent matter to attend to. Everyone, please finalize the ideas and conclude the meeting. However, Song Mina sensed something was off. It seems something has happened to make him leave so suddenly. This might be related to a man trying to assert his power.